Hey, I'm Cyclon, and today I'm going to share with you how I farmed my Mageblood in just 2 days of farming for it. Now, how I farmed it and what I did in a moment, just very quickly to define these 2 days. I spent 2 days farming one strategy, which is this video is about, that resulted in all the currency, or I guess 98-99% of the currency that was used to buy the Mageblood. Before that, during this league, I already farmed up a very powerful character, and I also farmed up the currency to afford those maps and the supplies, the Scarabs, Sextants, to run these maps in a very efficient manner, and even one big session of 120 maps in just a few hours. So, again, this video will be about Mageblood. I'm going to reveal everything. I'm going to reveal what I did, how I ran the maps, how much time the maps took, even the profits of the really big session, and also, of course, my filter that I used to run these maps as well. Everything will be revealed. After this video, you will be set up to copy the strategy, want to run and be able to get the same result. Now, for this, you're maybe not going to get it in 2 days. You're maybe not going to get it in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. It really will depend on how many hours a day you play and how many legions you're going to run in those hours. Everything in a bit. Just want to say that doesn't matter how much this video will blow up. Hopefully it does, because I will try to make it pretty good. But doesn't matter how good this video is going to end up, how much attention Legion is going to get from my video or from any other content creator's video. Legion this league will be able to make so much profit that you will be able to afford any big item that you want to farm with it, or want to farm for it. Just going to say this now again. There's no way that this strategy is not going to be profitable. You might need some adjustments, but I will get to that when the market changes. The strategy is really powerful, and if you like Legion, and if you want to farm your own Mageblood, your own Headhunter, your Mirror, or whatever you want to farm for, Legion is a good way to go for it. Alright, that being said, let's finally take a look at what we did. I farmed Legion Dunes. And Legion Dunes this league is nuts. Absolutely on crack. I don't know what happened, or well, I do know what happened, but it's ridiculous. Okay, so why is Legion this good? Well, Legion already used to be pretty good. You had currency incubators, diviner incubators, so ornate diviners, currency, stack decks. Stack decks sell for a lot in big bulk, and currency incubators get you like 1 to 3 incubators. On average, every 3 incubators you're going to get a divine from them too, and you're going to get a lot of raw divination divine drops. It's just really good. On top of that, this league we got one new addition that makes Legion absolutely busted. We got a new Divination card that drops on many maps, including the Dunes. And this Divination card is the Fortunate. The Fortunate is 1 out of 12, so you need 12 cards to turn in for 2 Divines. And this is a game changer for Legion. Previous leagues we run Cemetery to get the Brother's Gift, or well, in previous league or 2 previous leagues now we run Cemetery for Brother's Gift, but this league Dunes is so much better. The Fortunate drops very commonly from Divination card rewards on Legion monsters or Legion chests, which means that we see a lot of them every few maps. We get like 1 to 2. But if you're actually going to use the polished Divination Scarab, what it seems like, or any Divination Scarab by the matter. I think Gilded might be good, but I don't know if Gilded is worth it based on the price of Gilded, based off the price of the Fortunate card. This is something I will test in a future video. I'm going to talk about polished Divination Scarab in this video. With the polished Divination Scarab, I've seen every other map 1 to 2, and sometimes even 3 the Fortunates. And this means, at least as far as I can see, that the Divination Scarab is affecting the Legion chest, and the Legion mob rewards to drop more divination cards, I guess, and because we get more divination cards, we're going to get more fortunates. At least I've seen a lot more with Scarab than without the Scarab, so I can only recommend using the Scarab on this strategy. Now, with this, Legion is a top tier strategy already, and this just pushed it over the top. I don't know if other strategies are going to be better, but as far as I'm concerned, Legion is the best strategy to make currency in this league. It just feels really rewarding, it's really fast, and it gives you a ton of raw divines, in either with a div card or just raw drops. Now, other than Legion, there are a few other things we can fill our map with. We can use the Searing Exarch altars, we can use the Searing Exarch minions on our maps to get Awakened Sextants, to get Chisels, to get Wall Orbs, to get Raw Chaos Orbs, and that's just going to add on top of the value. Also, we're going to here and there get cool divination cards like Nurse, like potentially Doctor, Fiend, very rarely of course, but we can get those, or we can get the Academic or the Strategist, so we can get a few cool divination cards that are worth like maybe 50 to a few divines, or we can get really lucky, but ignoring the really lucky part, because in my big mapping session, which I get to the results of it later in the video, I have not gotten a single item worth more than 4 divines. The biggest thing I've gotten was a fracturing item. I think that was exactly worth 3.5 or 3.8 divines. Other than that, no big drops, and I still made, in this big mapping session, I think 150, 160 divines. It's just that ridiculous. Alright, now back to this. Exarch Altar, giving you a lot of raw currency and then a potentially divination cards. And then you can use Harbinger. Now Harbinger is in a questionable spot. Depending on the demand of Harbinger, it is not worth it to run Harbinger. Let me explain. Harbinger is going to, at the moment, sustain itself on Ancient Orbs, Exalted Orb and Annulment Orbs. Now if those go up, Harbinger will be easier to sustain and making a small amount of profit. But the big amount of profit of Harbinger is the Fracturing Orb. So if the demand for Harbinger increases, the Fracturing Orb needs to start covering the cost of Harbinger, because the prices of the Sextant and the Scarab will increase, and this means you need to get more and more lucky to actually make profit with Harbinger. And that's why I currently don't want to recommend Harbinger, including this threat. It's a good part of it, it's going to add to the profit of it, but it might not be worth running. So I'm leaving Harbinger as an optional part here, but I wanted to mention it because I did run it in a big bulk of my maps. I only dropped out of it after I actually achieved the Mageblood, and I noticed that not running it isn't that much different from running it. You're going to make a good amount of profit anyway. Now, we still have a few Sextant spots and Scarab spots open, so let's talk about improving the quality of life of our maps. Talking about legions per hour. This strategy, the profit of the strategy will purely rely on how many legions, how many maps you can run in an hour. The faster you run, the more profit you will make. This means you're going to find more divines, more the fortune div cards, more stack decks, more awakened sextants and more currency overall. To improve our legion per hour, there are 2 things we can do. We can include shrines and Nico. Now, shrines is pretty obvious, of course. We get the movement speed shrine, we are really fast, our mapping time gets near a minute, and we're having a lot of fun because our character will be too fast to even control properly. At least that's how it felt for me. The other thing we can do is using Nico. Now, to utilize Nico, we're going to use any Sulfite Scarab. Rusted is the cheapest option, so we're likely going to use that. Combining it with Packet with Energy, which gives us, after we clicked on all 3 sulfite nodes, even if our sulfite is full by the way, +1 all res, 105% increased damage, and 45% movement speed. That's more movement speed than we get from our boots, so that is really good. And then we can utilize the mining byproducts nodes to get a decent amount of azurites just from running our maps, which we then can sell for 1 socket, 2 socket resonators, depending if the 1 socket markets get filled, we swap to 2 sockets. If the 2 socket marks get filled, we go back to 1 socket. It's going to even out. in that going to cover the cost of our Sulfite Scarab and making a tiny amount of additional profit. So now we have just additional quality of life that pays itself, meaning our maps are faster, meaning we're going to have a better time. And this is really all there is to the idea. We're going to improve our mapping time by running shrines in Nico to have faster maps, meaning more legions per hour, meaning more maps per hour, meaning more profit per hour. Now, how exactly you want to run these maps, depending on if you use Shrine, depending on if you use Harbinger or not. Well, let's assume you just run Legion. You have Legions, maybe you have Shrine, maybe you have Sulfite nodes. So, you're going to load into your map, you're going to start clearing around, going to look for a Legion. The moment you find a Legion, you're going to run the Legion. You're going to clear the Legion, you're going to clear the Generals if there are Generals, and then you move on to the next Legion. Now, if your build is strong enough, what you can do is, while one Legion just finished clearing, so the stasis ends on one Legion, you see the next Legion, you're going to straight run to the next Legion, you're going to clear the stasis there. You're going to do the stasis phase there too, and while you have the stasis on Legion 2, you're going to clear Legion 1 because they were close to each other. That happened a lot to me in some maps. I was buffed up and I just did Legion into Legion into Legion into Legion, and then I cleared all the Generals and I was having a way quicker mapping time. But sometimes it doesn't work, so then you full clear your Legion and move on to the next one. If you see any Sulfite nodes on the map, you just grab them. They take no time, you are faster afterwards, so it's always worth grabbing Sulfite nodes the moment you see them. If you have shrines in your map, you want to slightly alter the way you run the maps. The first thing you want to do is quickly run through the map in a very quick manner, let your Mirage Archer clear a few packs to get Rampage higher. Look for shrines, click on the shrines, get the buffs. If you get a movement speed shrine or a movement speed random shrine buff from using the double buff nodes, Syncretism, then you're going to run your legions very quickly. If you don't find movement speed, you're still going to run your legions, but slightly slower than with a movement speed shrine, or speed shrine. Actually, it's action speed, not movement speed. So this is how you add shrines to the strategy. If you have Harbinger in your maps, you're also not going to alter your strategy. You're still going to run your legions, and the Harbingers will die on the side. The Harbingers are going to spawn the enemies, because we're going to clear the map, we're just going to fire a ton of projectiles or explode the screens. Harbingers are going to die on the side. If Harbingers survived after all legions are dead, what you can do is ping pong between two Harbingers. So let's say there are two Harbingers alive, you're going to run Harbinger, you're going to clear the mobs, you're going to walk to the other Harbinger, clear the mobs, and when you're back on the first one, he's going to respawn his mobs so you can clear them again and instantly move back to the other Harbinger, improving your overall clear time per Harbinger. If there's only one big Harbinger left in the end, you can just clear him while looting the map around the Harbinger. Now, with this, you have everything you need to know about what's good in the map and how you want to run the map. So let's finally take a look at what we want to put on our Atlas, Scarabs and Sextants. For the Atlas tree, we are going to take, first of all, of course, highest priority has the Legion nodes. We want Monumental and Constant Battle to have higher chance for an additional Legion per map. We're getting as many Legions per possible per map, making as much profit per map, because we run a lot of Legions in the map, makes pretty good sense. When you get to Constant Battle, you want the Marikav Legion chance and the Templar Legion chance leading to it. Next, we want to grab war supplies to get additional warhordes on our maps, and getting the warhordes to help us clear the Legion by using the bigger explosions they cause. We're going to want pillage treasures to get additional rewards from our warhordes and normal chests. We want logistical support for our surgeons to get additional rewards, and of course then we want protected battle to have a better Legion time, and chain of command to have more surgeons at our maps, as well as again more rewards from them. And finally we want emblematic. We also want the two small Legion chance node leading to emblematic, so that again we have as many Legions per map as possible. After Legion, our next priority is to block other mechanics. So we're going to block everything except Legion and Delirium. Now that we have blocked a lot of mechanics and we have spec'd into our Legion, it's time to add some mechanics back into the strategy. The first thing that I would add in if you're using Harbinger is Harbinger. You're going to grab all Harbinger nodes, including the small nodes, because the small nodes that give additional stack of currency shards will mean that you get more shards per Harbinger, meaning you get more chances to get a fracturing shard, meaning you're going to get overall more profit from your Harbingers. After you added Harbinger or you skipped Harbinger, the next thing I would go into is your map sustain, grabbing Shaping the Mountains and Shaping the Skies, meaning with 4 Void Stones and these two nodes you have a 150% chance for additional tier. This will naturally result with at least, I think, 8 map previous slots, 1 being an adjacent map, the rest being Legion, being Dunes. You're going to over-sustain your Dunes and you're going to sustain the adjacent map as well. I personally have favored 1 Messer and everything else in Dunes, and I haven't cleared a Shaper, Cyrus or a Fiat yet, so I'm missing 3 favorite slots, and I've gotten so many maps I started selling Dunes. It's ridiculous. Now finally we're going to get into the quality of life. So we're going to grab the Eldritch Gateway at the top right, going to the top left, grabbing Word of Exarch, Breath of the Cosmos, Light of Dawn, as well as the 2 small Searing Exarch nodes to the right side of the Exarch keystone. And then we're going to get to our quality of life, movement speed, or speed mapping. So we're going to grab Singular Focus, of course, because that is our map sustain guarantee. And then we're going to grab Pact with Energies, Mining Byproducts. Now by grabbing Mining Byproducts, we actually get a better pathing towards our other nodes. Because if we're not grabbing Shrines or Harbinger, we don't. But if we're grabbing Shrines and Harbinger, we only spend 2 traveling nodes to get to the middle part of the tree instead of 3 nodes going over the top from the position where we also go to War Supplies to get to Pillage Treasures and to get to Logistical Support. So we then have a slightly better passing, and we can pick up Syncretism, and we can pick up Supplication for our Shrines, and finally we can pick up additional mapping nodes with Shaping the World and the 6 higher map tier chance nodes in the middle, leading to Bold Undertaking for using Bold Undertaking because we don't want to use overloaded circuits, because overloaded circuits would result in our Legion doubling in cost and not giving us additional rewards. If it would double the effectiveness of the map device and giving you 2 Legions, that would be great, we would take it, but it doesn't, so we're not going to take overloaded circuits. And that really is all there is to the tree. Now if you don't have 132 points, I would drop nodes in the specific order. The first thing I would drop is the big ball of higher map tier chance in the middle that already saves you 8 nodes. Then I would drop the Shaping the World at the top, saving you another 4 nodes. If you still don't have more points, I think the next thing I would drop is Harbinger, because in my opinion Harbinger isn't needed for the strategy. But of course, if you want to keep Harbinger, I think the first thing I would drop out is for saving 4 nodes, dropping out of Supplication, and saving 3 nodes, dropping out of Syncretism, not having Shrines on the map. But personally, I prefer Shrines over Harbinger again, so I would drop out of Harbinger first. But yeah, this is the order I would drop out of nodes, and then you should be around 120 nodes, and you should have enough points to fit that in just by completing your Atlas and doing the basic Voidstone missions and Maven normal, like the small Maven boss battles, or however you want to call them. I forgot the specific term. As for your Scarabs, you want to use Polished or Gilded Legion. Now you want to use Gilded Legion if you have no issues killing the generals, as Gilded Legion right now, because of the guaranteeing the 2 generals, is cheaper than Polished Legion. Running Gilded Legion means you need a stronger build. If you have not a strong enough build, use Polished Legion. Then if you have Harbinger, you want to use Polished or Gilded Harbinger, again based on your preference, based on your budget. If you have a higher budget, you can use Gilded Harbinger. If you have lower budget, Polished Harbinger. There's just additional chance of fracturing shards is a good thing, but it does increase the cost additionally. Then we want to use a Rusted Sulfite Scarab to guarantee Nico, to use the Pact with Energy node and get the movement speed there. And finally, we want to use a Polished Divination Scarab. Again, I don't know if Gilded is worth it, you will need to wait for an update for that. A Polished will be my recommendation for now, it definitely helps with your map sustain. Not map sustain, with your the fortunate sustain. As for your Sextants, there's really one we definitely need, and there's Legion. Grabbing the Legion Sextant is really good, because getting the Legion Sextant in combination with Map Device Legion, with Scarab Legion, and with an Atlas Tree, we have an average, as far as I know, of 3.8 Legions, so most of our maps will be 4 Legions. And that is really awesome, because it makes a lot of profit per map. Now, after Legion, we can grab the Harbinger Sextant if we are using Harbinger, and we can grab a Shrine Sextant if we are using Shrine. So, personally, I prefer the Resonating Shrine because it gives us additional buffs on our charges, meaning we have even better damage, even better clear, and I think we are even slightly bit faster by using that Shrine. And of course, it helps us finding more shrines per map, getting more often the movement speed buff, meaning the speed buff, meaning we have faster maps overall. Now finally, let's take a look at the 120 maps big bulk mapping sessions that I did. In these 120 maps, I've made, including 8 divines from the Fortunate Div cards, and I think it was 3 divines from selling items for a divine and a bit of chaos. I've gotten 45 divines. Now, removing those 11 divines, that is 34 divine drops in 120 maps, and that is a ridiculous number. It is absolutely absurd. On top of that, I've gotten over 2k stack decks. I've gotten 1.5 fracturing orb, which I think I got a bit lucky. I got 104 annulments, 36 exalts, and 65 ancient orbs, and a whopping 326 awakened sextants. Now, those are ridiculous numbers, but of course 120 maps will result in a lot. Definitely a big chunk of the profit was just the raw divine drops, and the stack decks were also a huge chunk. I think the stack decks were... I think I noted it down here. Let me see. Right here. 24 divines for the stack decks, 7.8 divines for all the fossils that I've gotten in the map, including the 1-socket resonator. So I sold 1-socket resonators, all the fossils that I randomly got in my maps. I sold for 7.8 divines, then 6.3 divines for the Scarabs that I've gotten just from the random Scarab rewards on Delirium or on Legion. By the way, if you get Delirium, you go to 5 layers or 6 layers and then you skip it. That's it for daily. And then I've gotten 20 divines for the emblems. Now that is a lot of currency just for the emblems, but of course again it's a lot of maps. And finally I got 5 divines for the awakened sextants. Overall made a big amount of profit during those maps. Just ridiculous amounts, honestly. But yeah, that's basically it. I think, to correct, I said earlier 98 to 95% of my 98 to 99% were from those maps. Some of the fossils haven't actually been from those 120 maps. They have been from previous map I run during All League, because we only did one big bulk selling of the fossil tab. So there are the 2% that I think didn't came from the Legion farming. But in terms of 200 divines, 2% is... It's not that much. It's just a few fossils. So it doesn't really change. I could have just run a few more maps and I would have gotten there again. Overall, just a lot of gains from this big session. And of course there were 2 smaller sessions of I think about 60 maps each that then added the rest of the profit needed to buy that Mageblood. Now there's one more thing that I need to mention before we're going to get to the most important trick that I use to make this much currency in this little time. The one thing that of course needs to be mentioned is how much time I spent per map. Average time of my map was 4 minutes. This includes running and looting the map. If I had a movement speed shrine, running the map took me a minute. Without the movement speed shrine, running the map took me like 2 to 3 minutes. Depending on the buffs I've gotten from Inspired Learning, it definitely were very quick maps, and also of course how the legions spawned next to each other. If they were very close to each other, I spent less time. If they were more spaced out, I spent a little more time per map. And then I spent about 30 seconds to a minute looting the map. Now, I mentioned earlier that my loot filter will also be public, so I'm going to mention this now. In the description there's going to be a link to my profile. On my profile you can find all my filters that are public. So you can find my stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3 filter. For this farming I use the stage 2 filter. Eventually I will move on to stage 3 filter as the league goes on, but the stage 3 filter isn't updated yet. The stage 1 and stage 2 filter are updated for this league and are working properly. If you don't have a lot of currency yet, use stage 1. If you already have a baseline amount of currency and just trying to farm more, use the stage 2 of my filter. Alright, so the looting took about 30 seconds to a minute. It is taking quite some time, but if it took a minute there was a lot of stuff in the map, so it was worth spending the minute looting it. And now finally, let's take a look at the most important thing that I did that allowed me to farm this much currency in so little time. Now, this thing is, I wasn't working alone. I had a trader, and before you instantly click away by just hearing the term trader, give me a moment to explain this. Having a trader is not something for only the elite people. It's not something for only the top tier players that grind no life all day. I get to in a moment if a trader is something for you, but the trader is really helpful because a trader allows me to have almost no downtime in my mapping. If I run just maps myself, I buy the Sextants, I buy the Scarabs. If I want to go cheap, I even buy them in not bulk, and then I prepare my maps and I run my maps. This league, what happened was that I hadn't to buy any Scarabs, hadn't to buy any Sextant. All I bought was my gear upgrades and I was rolling my maps. Other than that, I was in a map playing. So if I wasn't upgrading my gear or rolling maps, I was in a map, I was playing. This meant, again, almost no downtime for running legions, almost no downtime in my maps, meaning overall more profit per map, more profit per hour. More good amount of legions per hour, good amount of profit per hour. Now, is the trader something for you? I think it doesn't depend on how much time you play, how much you play each day. It really depends on how efficient you want to play. If you just like to casually play the game, you're done with the day of work, you just want to log in, play for a bit, you don't really mind farming currency, you do take something like my Legion strategy, you make a bit of currency and you're happy, but you don't really care about making currency. You don't really have a set goal of farming a Mageblood, farming a Headhunter, farming a Mirror, or whatever you want to farm. You just play for the fun of it and you're okay with whatever you make. That's totally fine. But if you want to have a specific goal, if you want to farm something specific, if you want to play efficiently, then a trader gets interesting for you. A trader will allow you to further improve your efficiency. Let's say you just did a 100 mapping session and now you need to liquefy everything, then you need to buy a new supply. If you have a trader, what's going to happen is you're about to finish your mapping session, you message your trader, hey buddy, I already have 10 raw divines, can you grab those, getting me a new supply? So in those final, let's say 20 maps of your 100 map mapping session, the trader is preparing another 100 maps for you. So the moment you finish, you trade your trader everything you've got, then the trader takes that things, lists it, sells it, and while that he trades you already new supply so you can get right back to mapping more. Meaning, again, your mapping downtime is close to zero, so you make overall more currency. Now a trader, obviously, because they need to make their money, they are putting the time in to sell, to buy, so they're going to take a cut. They're going to take between a 10 and 20% cut. Usually 20% cuts is if the trader is very confident in their services and it is really good. And this cut is completely outweighed by the efficiency of maps you run. I again had close to zero downtime. In those last 2 days, starting at about 7 AM until about 23 PM, 7 AM, 23, so that's 11 PM, I was farming legions. if I wasn't eating dinner, or if I wasn't sleeping, if I wasn't needing to do something for my grandparents, I was farming legions. Again, it's close to zero downtime, meaning I made so much more currency in that time because it was just that much efficient. So to reiterate over this, to give it a conclusion, if you just casually play, if you don't really care about making a lot of currency, if you make currency, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. You don't need a trader. But if you have a specific goal, if you want to farm to a specific thing, if you just want to play efficiently, look into getting a trader. If you don't have any friends that is interested in trading, I still have a buddy that looking, I think, for 3 more people now to trade for that I can connect you with. But of course, how you're going to work with him, what you're going to give him will be up to you, and how efficiently it's going to be is depending on how much you give him and how efficient you run after that. But just having a trader, having access to being able to constantly run maps is worth so much more than those 20% that you would lose. Because let me give you the alternative. You try to run efficient. You finish your 100 maps, now you need to list everything. Now you need to check the prices for everything, and then once everything's sold, then you need to buy new Sextants, new Scarabs. This time that you bought everything would have been the additional currency you made that you lost with the 20% cut given to your trader. But again, I guess if you still don't want interest in a trader and you want to run efficient and you're not interested in a trader, then there isn't really anything else I can say to convince you. A trader is definitely worth it if you want to be efficient, if you have only limited time. I guess last example, sorry. Let's say you only play 3 hours a day, you get home after work, you're exhausted, you just want to play the game, but you want to get that Mageblood. Specifically because you only run 3 hours. Your 3 hours are very valuable. You need to be efficient in those 3 hours to get to your goal as quick as possible. Again, if you're the first category, you don't really care about getting to the goal quickly, then it's fine. But if you want to get to the Mageblood quickly because you maybe need to enable your second build, then this trader will, after the 3 hour session, take your currency, sell it off, and when you get back online in the next evening, the trader is there giving you a new supply, and you are able to run your maps again instantly. No needing to sell, no needing to do any downtime, just having fun mapping. And that is a wonderful part of having a trader. You don't have anything to do with trade, you just worry about your mapping and you have fun. Alright. Now, finally, there are 2 things that I need to mention that you can improve to further optimize this strategy that I didn't do that I should have done. Now, I guess the one thing I should have done. The first thing is leveling gems. I was only leveling the gems that I needed on my gear. I wasn't leveling gems for profit. I should have definitely looked into what gems to level, what gems to sell to make profit, because I was killing so many maps it took me like 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes, to level a gem to level 20. It was really quick to level gems. I should have leveled gems, I should have sold gems, I would have made my Mageblood even quicker. And the second thing that I can recommend is getting an even stricter filter. Now, my filter was already pretty strict, but as the league will go on, this is something that is for you now to run, that runs this strategy in the future, not for me that runs the strategy the previous 2 days. Using a stricter filter, once Awakened Sextants increase in price, once stack decks increase in price, once bubblegum currency like instilling orbs, glass blowers are losing in price because there is no more demand for it. Not a high demand, just sometimes people buy it, sometimes not. Meaning you don't need to worry about picking those up, you just need to worry about getting more stack decks, more Awakened Sextants, more Raw Chaos, more Raw Divines. So you reduce your loot filter to reduce your mapping time, or I guess your looting time per map, to run more maps an hour again, to clear more legions an hour again, to get more of the things that are actually worth something, but don't take, that you still want to pick up. So altogether, strategy really powerful. I've talked a lot about it now, how you are set up. If you just take the strategy, if you just run the strategy for, I don't know how long it will take you, it really depends on how many hours you play a day and how efficiently you play in those hours. You're going to make a Mageblood, you're going to make a Headhunter, you're going to make a Mirror eventually. The amount of currency you can make this league with Legion is so much beyond busted with the Fortunate, with Raw Divines, with having 4 Legions a map. It is impossible to not make a profit with Legion. If there's too much demand on it, we might need to drop the Sextant. we might need to go down to a rusted Scarab or not a Scarab, but even despite that, we will still have 2 legions, or most of the time. We will still have the map device, which is static in cost, and we'll still have the random legion we get each map. It would still be pretty damn profitable. All that being said, you're set up to run this. Have a wonderful time farming. If there are any questions, if I've forgotten anything, or if you just want to chat, right now I'm unable to stream, so feel free to join my Discord. I will be in a voice channel most of the time during the day when I'm playing PoE. If not, during the evening when I'm playing PoE. Feel free to join, chat with me, or ask me in the comment section, ask me on Discord, DM me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will try to answer as quickly as possible. Now, all that being said, have a wonderful day and good luck farming.